Funny you should say that there, Auntie. I remember getting blocked one time and joining the rob by an accident.
I'm gonna start grinding and lock in. I'm locked in. I'm locking the fuck in, and I took a nap. I fell asleep.
Sorry, we're going streaking through the quad and into the gymnasium. Come on, everybody!
Hello there.
Sorry, we're going streaking through the quad and into the gymnasium. Come on, everybody!
Oh, fuck you! Jesus Christ. Fuck me.
Leyoric in the zone, every move calculated. The raid is assembling. We're ready for the encounter.
Sorry, we're going streaking
Previously
through the
in
quad
Sekiro,
and into the gymnasium.
Leyoric
Come on,
clawed his way to
everybody!
the very top of Ashina Castle, scaling rooftops and cutting through guards like a man fueled entirely by stubbornness and spite. At the summit, he finally faced the legendary Genichiro Ashina, a warrior of lightning-fast strikes, brutal combos, and absolutely zero respect for Leyoric's health bar. What followed was less of a battle, and more of a repeated public execution. Death after death after death. Now, with his pride in tatters and his resurrection nodes working overtime, Leyoric has come to a grim conclusion. Genichiro isn't going down today, so it's time to get stronger, sharpen the blade, gather new tools, and return to that rooftop with one goal: revenge.
Do it, lady.
Well, come on, folks. I put everything on the same queue.
Shut your fucking mouth! Shut the fuck up, you cunt!
Dreams collide, a fairy tale unfolds with every...
Nothing I can do. Nothing I can do. It must have been when I changed scene, it flipped it back on again. But, Flamash, fuck you. I was too tempting to do it. Aye, just ruin it. Just ruin it for everybody else. Why don't you just so you're fucking entertained? Yeah, so I put everything on the same redeem because I thought everything kept interrupting each other when everybody came on. And that was a mistake. But you know what, it was good crack. It's good crack. You do it to me when I'm mid-sentence. Yes, but you don't stop talking, so technically every single breath of yours is mid-sentence. Well, welcome on, folks. What's happening? Steam Train, what is the story? Teddy, McKinn's, Happy Irish, Flimosh, and Sierra. Welcome on, folks. How are we getting on? Alright, so, what the news? New camera. So, I invested in a new camera because, although I did like, I had the Elgato face cam, and I did like it, but it just looked a bit grainy, a bit choppy. What camera is it?
Appreciate the biddies.
Thank you very much for the biddies. It is the Obspot 2 Lite. So it's that wee jobbo. Look at that. It's very good at autofocusing. And it also is on a gimbal, so it kind of moves about. So, say, if never heard of it, but it looks fantastic. It is wonderful. But it has its own gimbal, and you can put presets. So if I say, oh, I have Final Fantasy pictures up there. Do you want to look at them? It goes and it finds them. And then I have another preset that brings it back. And it's the same one Hook has. So you can do all the gestures and stuff as well to make it move about. But Link? No, Zelda. No, Zelda. But yeah, I decided to invest in a new camera. Send me the link, you prick. After what you did? No, I will send your wife the link, not you. Fuck you. All top streamers use it, probably why you've never heard of it. Oh, well done, Happy Irish. Oh, well done, I enjoyed that one. My camera's very fancy. Yes, but your lighting's shite, so you're in the dark. Your wife's camera's better than yours. And that's what she said. You look at the two E's in the same room, side by side, and you can see your wife, and she's well lit and all, and then you're just in the dark going, rawr, rawr, rawr. That's because of the bloody sign. You've always, even before that, you've always been in the dark. I don't know what it is. Get a light on you. And you don't need to shine the light at the sign, just shine it on you. Rawr, 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 because for some reason now you're a pirate. So, I'm enjoying myself too much already. Well, she wouldn't let me put the ring light up full because she got blinded by it. Because she could see it from outside on the street. I felt like my lighting was better last night. No, we could still see, and that's the problem. That's the problem. How did your meeting go with Burton today, though? I know you were going to meet him IRL in real life. Exciting stuff. Is he everything we thought he would be? What's he smell like? What was it like going to meet Burton today? How did you get on? The shadows offer a salty mystique to his stream, though. Yeah. Like, oh, we're playing a horror game. Oh, Jesus, there's some creepy person in the corner. Oh, it's Flemish. Sorry. Nice. He's incredibly tall. He's 6 foot. He's the same height as you, apparently. But yeah, I know that Burton is taller than me, and so's Reddy, I think, as well. For anybody that does know, Flemish lies on forums about his height. He's 5'3", and he tells people he's 6 foot. I accidentally lied. That's what you say when you go to court. Oh, I didn't mean to lie. I never measured myself. Lies. Every man with a tape measure has measured himself. Am I tall to you? You're taller than me, yeah. I'm 5'10". I'm probably 5'9" now because I'm getting older. Like, I was under pressure and didn't know my height, and he just threw the first number comes under your mind, and you thought 6 foot. Oh, some crack, eh? Did you? Did you? I didn't say 6 foot. You didn't say 6 foot. I was there. I was the doctor. I had a wig on. I said 5'11". Whatever. Every inch makes a difference, that's what they say. I'm 6'1", yeah. So I knew you were around 6 foot. You're taller than me. And Hook is 7'3", so he's definitely taller than me. And that's just the way it is. There's no denying it. Me and McKen's both look up to him. He has to stoop and bow down when he walks into rooms. See, trying to see him fit on his car, he has to do the thing Hightower did in Police Academy, where he has to pull his front seat and put it in the back seat just so his legs can fit. Man's massive. But I was good crack. We were there for 2 hours and didn't notice the time going. We just sitting chatting, aye. Happy days. That's always good. We did that before. Me, Hook, McKinn's, Waffles, and Dean all went to Ergol to climb Ergol together. It was good meeting up, and it was awful weather. The worst weather that has ever happened. And we got a bit of the way up and we're all, fuck this. Well, we just go back and go get breakfast in the cafe, and that's what we did. And we just sat yapping. Just chatting shit. That's the way. You slagging me off. Why? I heard you were talking about me. Burton messaged me and said, hey, this boy's giving you grief. Fuck you, Flemish. But yeah, more Sekiro tonight. And I'm actually excited about it because...
Where are the turtles?
Where are the fucking turtles? Where are the turtles? Nobody knows. Nobody knows. You just love going onto everybody's stream to do that. Schedule, test. I should actually get something just to pop up for them. None of them are working.
Tell me what you
I know.
want. Treat, bitch.
Well.
Me? No. What do you say? Bitch. No.
Well.
I'm not gonna give you a treat if you call me that. What do you say? Please. Bitch, please.
Sorry, I didn't see the shout out. You were like, I don't want Flemish to get a shout out. So, it's a puppy. It's a... Did you hear that? Like, earphones on. How did you hear it?
Such devastation.
Oh, Flemish is champion.
Was not my intention.
Hey. Pretties. She's got her num-num. She got her num-num. I was concentrating on Cleo. She's munching. She is. She's going nom 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 nom. We're just shouting everybody's name now. I would shout Cleo's one, but she might be afraid I'm giving off there. Cleo. There she is. All done. And the timer has now been activated. So, I forgot caps is on. No, we're all just shouting now. We're all just screaming in our own houses at screens. And people are looking at us as if we're weird. And it's even worse in your house because you and Flemish are right beside each other screaming at the screen. You're perfectly lighted and he's in complete darkness, like a troll. But yeah, I'm going to play more Sekiro tonight. I'm going to go back for Genichiro. I'm going to beat him. I've changed out my combat arts. And I think I'm going to give him a good go. Because I was getting close to the night. It was just getting late. And I was like, I've got these first two phases down. It's just that third one. Who are you beating? Genichiro, we know you're the guy up the very top of the tower. That's the guy we're going for. We're going to whip his ass, Seabass. Did that come on alright? It's just because my view is a wee bit. It's grand. That's grand. I'm on there in the corner. That's me in the corner. And my controller switched off because I was chatting too much. And the game keeps doing that. Although I did do the fix apparently for it, it still keeps doing that where it will continue to.
Leyoric, I'm sorry.
Did this get it a new light? I didn't. I got a new camera. I got the same one as Hook, the ObSpot one, and I fucking love it. It's class. Odin's Virtue, well, come on, what's happening? So, yeah, got a new camera, and it arrived like half an hour ago, and I was like, I don't know if I have time to set this shit up, but apparently I did. So, it's all good. It's looking very clean. Really up the production for YouTube. Well, that's the main thing. It was for the YouTube as well. But, I'm just going to flip back to this, just because I like this thing. We've seen Hook do it before with the gesture controls and stuff, which is quite cool. But I didn't know that you could preset locations you want the camera to go to. So I've done one for my pictures up behind me, the Final Fantasy ones. And it's just... It's the pictures of the Final Fantasy ones. And then... Back at me. And that's the noise the camera makes. That wasn't me making noises. It's the noise the camera makes. That does well too. And it's great. The autofocus and... Yeah, it's phenomenal. Like if I were to hold up... Oh, here's a picture of Optimus Prime. Normally that's blurry, but it will refocus on him very quickly. Oh, look at that. And now I'm blurry. And then it focuses on me. And the other one couldn't do that. You had to manually go on and try and do that. You're missing FF9 up in that wall. I didn't get... See, the problem is I got FF9 cards from the Magic the Gathering, but I had to trade them to my mates for some of the Final Fantasy 8 ones. Cheap too. It is. It's a good price. OLD Leyoric. It is a great price, and I'm really, really happy with it, to be honest. I was all, what if I buy it and I don't really notice the difference? Because the one I had previously was just... How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? Finally, a question that matters. A woodchuck would chuck as much wood as a woodchuck could if a woodchuck could chuck wood. Now back to the game, human. Well done. The previous one was this one. This one was actually given to me by Hook. And it is the Elgato face cam, the normal 1080p one. And it's brilliant camera. Did me well. Oh, he's just gone back. Although one thing I really do like, and I think this is quite funny, is there is a section for beauty. You can beautify yourself. So I can make, this one's called Man, which makes me more skinny because apparently I'm less of a man because I'm fat. Makes me slightly skinny, changes my skin tone. Quite cool. This one's called Native. Just makes me more and more white. This one is called Classic. And it gives me like lipstick and stuff. And it's wonderful. It's wonderful. So I can't wait to use all them. Why don't I get caps? I know, why doesn't Steam Train get caps? Being racist. It looks more professional. I think it just does, actually. It's a more modern camera. And I don't know, I just like the way it does the colors and stuff and the HDR and stuff on it. So I'm liking it. I'm liking it. I don't like chains though, so I hate it. You don't like any chains. Unless it's your chains. If it's your chains, apparently it's okay. But if it's anyone else's, you kick off about it. Right. I'll probably need a couple of warm-up ones.
Face me, Shinobi. I didn't think I'd...
Oh, that was a grab. And I just took it in the face. I'm really not doing well here. And the game froze. I don't know why it keeps doing that. Oh, doing it again. Oh, doing it again. Game, what is wrong with you? So I kind of swapped out my whirlwind attack for that more... Okay, that's not fun. It's not fun. Counter. Oh no, oh no. And I got died.
You got knocked the fuck out, man!
I did? I'm not getting them on this one. I'm completely missing everything here. Oh, I'm not. Why did I miss that? Don't know what I was thinking there. Right, okay. Oh, I'm really out of practice a wee bit tonight. Oh, what's wrong with me? Got me. Oh, still have another resurrection. I don't know how that happened, but there we go. What a mess. I'm very jealous, very clean. He looks more lit now. I look lit. Oh, it's my change. It's great because it's my idea. Pretend you told him to get the camera. You're looking at one more cap. Now looks classic blown. Appreciate it. Pretend you told him to get a cheese board. Oh my god. Or a coffee machine. It was taking time to think of the best way to fuck. Yeah, I think I found it. Right, okay. That actually didn't go horrifically for my first go back. Am I using the stealth one or the posture one? I think I'm actually using the stealth one, which is a bit silly. Face me. Because he can fucking see me. Are you coming at me, bro? Oh no. Oh, right, okay. Doing a little bit better. I think the fact that the game kept freezing during that last one kind of threw me a bit. I don't know what that was. Counter, right, okay. It's always so quick with that one.
What's the Elvish word for friend?
Right, got him. Moon, what's happening? Good morning. Now, can I pause this? I can. Is that the stealth one? That's a fucking stealth one. That's the wrong one. This is the one for reducing posture damage. What is this story, man? Welcome on. Watch him knock one out. Hey. Yes, we're in this fight again. But I feel more confident. Ooh, that was a big attack. Should have just went for the carry counter. But I didn't. Because I'm a fool. Fool! Ah, got fucking battered there. But okay. Go. I thought I got him through there. Come on. Yeah, we're in the second phase, but that's way. Ooh, phase 3. Don't have a huge amount of health for it, though, it's the only thing. Oh, fuck, I got him. Oh, and then he got me. He got me.
Thanks for the sub!
Rod, thank you very much for the sub, buddy. Welcome on. I'm not paying attention to what's happening. Surprise! Damn, didn't startle. You did a bit. You did a bit. Fuck, he got me. They got me. Finished off Portal this morning. If you went back in time, had to learn an old weapon, bow and arrow, broadsword, katana, scimitar, quarterstaff, and shuriken. What would you choose? If I had to go back in time and learn between a bow and arrow, broadsword, scimitar, I would go broadsword.
Cheese.
Latency, what's happening? Cheese, indeed. Doing good, we're playing Sekiro. Oh, fucking hell, there's Hook. Right, so we might have a better chance now that I have the proper actual sugar instead of going on a boss fight with a stealth one. Like a fool.
Face me, Shinobi.
Oh, I didn't even... Because he jumped towards me, I didn't even think. I was stuck in a corner room, I couldn't do anything. Right, first phase. Done! What am I looking at? What am I looking at? Oh, very cool. Yeah, quarterstaff will be badass. New camera. New camera, Hook. New camera. What do you think? What do you think? How's it look? You go quarterstaff? Why not a full staff? Christmas fake? I think Leyoric there has been flirting with the idea. You got one or Leyoric? Yeah, yeah. So, just go flip over. So we got this one today, the same one as Hook, it's the offspot. I do like it. I like it a lot. I like it a lot. Not as cool as Hook though, I'm not going to use the beauty features on it. Looks a lot clearer, I think. Maybe, who knows? I think my mind and body would chill and clear before I could. What's crazy? What's crazy? Crazy. Crazy fuck. It ended up being 32 hours. What was 32 hours? What am I looking at? Oh, an hour, baby. What was 32 hours? It ended up being 32 hours. Rod, I'm missing what was 32 hours. Was it 6? Yeah, it's clear, but until I knew it was a new camera, I didn't want to sound like I was seeing things. Me just being a specky boy. Who would want to fight Hook or Leyoric? Leyoric, obviously. Hook's been too busy looking at his own reflection. Now about that treat you owe me. Oh, fuck. The dog is right. Been awake for 32 hours. Went to Teddy stream around 24 hour mark. My God, Rod, what is wrong? Is it insomnia? Because I used to have a condition where I sat up all night eating. And I went to the doctor and it's called insomnia. Fuck, it took too long and I pulled up that attack. Oh shit. Need to get out of there as well because my fucking thing was gone. Kiri counter! Fuck you! Kiri counter! It's all about that posture damage, baby. He always does that when he's low. No, 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 no. I had you. It's not fair. Go on, just let me hit you. There we go. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Treats out of stock. Sorry, dog. Out of stock, there's a timer at the top of the screen. So it's out of stock until then. Oh shit, I'm about to die. You know what, I think it's my first death, so I think we're doing okay. Oh fuck, I thought he was going for a lightning attack. But he was not.
I'm gonna start grinding and lock in. I'm locked in. I'm locking the fuck in.
Oh, he was so close. So close to actually getting him. Thank you, Flash, for that. Well, Cleo, what the fuck? What Cleo do? Cleo didn't do nothing. Cleo didn't do nothing. It's a dull whole stressing me out all day. Before then, not well, soon going home. Oh, no way, man. That's a fucking nightmare. I hope you get some sleep soon. I hope my dulcet tones and my boring speech will get you to sleep. As the game says, you die twice at the very least. Yeah, you can die 3 times. I've unlocked it for 3 times. But yeah, we were getting close there, which I was quite liked. I'm going to keep going until I get him, you know. I'm going to get him.
Face me, Shinobi.
Oh, dirty, dirty, dirty little sneak. Mikiri counter! Was up these nonsense now? Oh, I went for the wrong one. I was supposed to go to the Mikiri counter, but I didn't. Shit. And I just lay on the ground there and let him stab me, which wasn't good. You silly sausage, you. That's phase 1 down. Oh, I did sleep. Oh, I did sleep, and now I'm awake and feeling drowsy. Maybe just try and rest up. Just take it easy today, man. I'm glad you got some sleep. Yeah, even a little bit. Should have known he was going for that. Fuck. Stuck in the corner. Oh, I went too early with that one. Get me out of that fucking corner. There we go. Right, so we're phase 3. We have 2 healing items. It's not too bad. Not too bad at all. Nah, just took that one in the face. Holy shit. Stop concentrating on items though. Fuck's sake, right. Defense. Defense, sir. Defense. Well, that went the other shit. It did. It did. It fucking did. Can't handle it. Gonna go back to the old camera. I struggled to look at the game in the past, and now it's impossible. Oh, say the nicest things ready. Yes, revert the change. I'll fucking revert your change in a wee minute. I need to remember, stop being so aggressive when I get to the last phase. And also try not to use a sugar in the last phase because it'll just destroy you even though you know what moves are coming up.
Face me, Shinobi.
Oh, he's kind of going on with the carry counters tonight. Okay, we would have an early one. Not bad, not bad. I don't mind that. I don't mind that at all. And jump. And I didn't stop on his head. Fucking missed out. Come on. Do. Stop kicking me. You prick. Let's go. Let's go. I didn't move away. Clark is cool. Hello, what is happening? How are you getting on?
Thank you for the follow.
Thank you very much for the follow. Yes, we have to stay away from the summoner. Didn't time that one right at all. I've been here for about an hour. I've been here for about 3 streams. So I feel your pain. But not an hour. Oh, you've been here for... All right, I get you. I've been here for 11 minutes before. Yeah, I've been here 11 minutes before stream. Fair play. That's how you do it. Yeah, this isn't going well for me. Every time I try and heal, it goes for one of them moves. Fuck, that was close. That was really close there. And I didn't think I was going to do it, but I managed to counter that move twice. Press the murder button on the controller. Initiate kill phase. Or phase kill. 20 years to learn how to parry. He's always around. He's always aroused if you're around ready. My god. I have a sneaking suspicion Clark might be cool. The name gives it away. I meant to say 20 minutes. Leyoric woke up in the cold sweat last night hearing the clang of swords. Rachel told me. That's exactly what happened. Are tips allowed? Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, no problem. Look at chat. Giving some great tips. Yeah, like don't die. That's a good one. Also, deal more damage to him than he does to you if you're stuck. Just think, if you stuck a Bluetooth speaker in his house playing sword clanking noises quietly at random. Yeah, so I don't know where it is as well. Just like really throw me. Get good. Keep your health above the boss's health. These are all phenomenal tips. You know what? I'm going to take all these on board now, and that's what I'm going to use in this fight.
Face me.
Face me. No, I jumped up. No, that's not fair. It's not fair. It's bullshit. Some bullshit.
No, Danny. It's getting harder.
Yeah, I'm just not concentrating, I don't think. I always had this first phase down. Fucker. No, just we don't want the lock on there. Why do we want the lock on? That would just be silly, wouldn't it? Hit that stupid wee bow move. That's that first phase done. Right, you know, I'm just going to pay attention to him now when he comes on. Nope, not too soon. Almost seriously. Every fucking time. There we go. Right, so what am I in chat? So when you heal who go for the charge bow attack, you can get a free vitality shot. So when you heal who go for the charge bow attack, and you can get a free vitality shot. Yeah, I've seen that. I normally just dodge out of the way though, so I'm never really close enough. Should have a Hans command or something? Yeah, potentially, yeah. You can dodge through the arrow. Yeah, I've actually noticed that in that last one. I can actually dodge ahead through it, which I'm going to start doing. So, Flamash beat real latency. Sierra beat Flamash. You know that there's a one as well. You can relinquish it and go put it back to 100, which is quite good. I don't know what the... I haven't really thought about the the offside of that will be. Patience for this phase now. I have to be a doctor. I have to be more patient. You should realistically never parry the charge hours. I try not to, and it's just instinct, I think. Fuck, he has focus. Jump scared, I didn't phase him. Yeah, it kind of did. Ruffling feathers, so I paused my race. To play before the fight started again, but the delay. You're the fucking delay. I can sense Leoric's anger. It's the camera. He's a different man. It makes him 12% more angry. Never block, 110% aggression. Also, the third phase, you can't heal unless you firecracker him. As the input reads. Right, okay. I didn't even mean to be on the axe. It just... at some point. But thank you very much for the tips. Much appreciated. I volunteers tribute. This is it. This is the one. This is the one. I can feel it.
Face me, Shinobi.
Thank you very much for the butts, Sir Teddy. There we go. First phase down. That was actually quite clean.
I'm not finished yet. Shinobi of the divine air.
And I timed it wrong. No, he went to Mercury counter. You sneaky bastard. That one and this one. This is not the one. I believe. I no longer believe. Yes. This is And I died. Dude, this, if someone started healing in front of you, we just stand there. He should just stand there. He should be polite and allow me to heal. It's the only way to do it. And chosen one. The fight is sex at camp. This fight's like sex in a campsite. Fucking intense. Very good. Very good. I like it. Psychomantis, for sake. This type of joke. Skybox, rating you, please. That's a solid 8. 5, gifted. If you do it, does try. Never even seen that. But no, don't be wasting your money on me. I no longer believe. It's kind of man this fight. So just leave the sugar? Okay. Because if he poise breaks you, it doesn't... Yeah. Okay. Let's just go. Just go then.
Face me.
Face me. He can be taught. Oh, we're in breaks at the moment. We're in ads. We're in ads. I cannot fucking see. Deep concentration. I'm still in phase 1. How the fuck am I still in phase 1 here? There we go, my carry counter. Nice one. One more reading here, one more here. That's the time to complete a mission. So the ads block the progress, just makes it more mythical. I'll just load up someone else's save and be like, it was me! I did it.
I'm not finished yet. Symbol of the divine air.
Let's go. We're in the third phase. We have 5 of them. You know what? I'm not raging at it. I'm not raging on it. I'm not raging at it. Oh, he got me good. I keep thinking he's doing that lightning attack, but he doesn't. Just being crafty. Oh, is that him? Is this him? Is this him? Oh, please tell me there's no more phases. Yes! Fucking got him! There we go. Ooh, 45 deaths and most of them were to him. My god. Finally. Finally! This makes me... so... Blood smoke ninjutsu. Ninjutsu technique turns to spray blood in the victim's smoke. Plus emblems. Cool beans. I know everyone else could probably breeze through that, but... Oh, fuck's sake, Flumma. She didn't have to do that. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. That's good job for every one of them now. But that's that done now. Thank God. She means me no harm. Let's go do them for every one of them now.
Thanks for the sub.
So 5 gifts is only the last go, but you were near dead, so I changed it to the next go. I appreciate that, thank you. No sub to me, RIP. Whenever I say this, I end up getting gifted, so I can feel guilty. So spending my coffee machine money. I know, buy your wife a coffee machine and a cheese board. Buy both. Oh, he's still going? Ah, shit.
Resurrection.
Oh,
yes. Indeed.
Genichiro's the same abilities as me, for fuck's sake. You do... Sorry, it's random. Damn you, random. Damn you, fate. I fall down. How'd you get up there? I fell. I said it, so take my... Oh, thank God, that's over. But to be fair, I did enjoy the fight. I'm not necessarily saying it was bad or anything. Enhance attack. I'm stronger than yesterday. I don't have any skills acquired, in fact, no. Oh, but I do need to rest to get my thing up. Sorry, we're fighting. I was busy looking at the camera. I didn't get one either. Just because I'm already subbed. Unfair! Racism. Racism. Lady?
At long last, I've managed to fulfill my master's orders.
Well,
Give you my thanks.
well, technically I did it, so...
Ishin Ashina. I am a doctor in the service of Lord Ishin.
Why were you ordered to help me?
Lord Ishin has no desire to use the power of the dragon.
Ooh, just found out something about Murray. He sold his account. It's not him anymore. His account actually got banned for a day, but is unbanned after one day. Man, I banned him in my stream as well. Just it seems to just target everybody who's live and comes in saying, "Hey, love your setup," and it's, I don't know if it's looking to get subs or people they follow the account, but it's definitely really sus. So he sold his account and some random person is now spamming with it. What's the point in having one down here and one up here? Doesn't make any sense. Where is this? This is different. This is a different one. But also, why is there one upstairs and one downstairs? Maybe in case he needs to pee.
I have come for you, my lord.
Yes, you did well to come here.
Let us go.
This is that account as the partner that just plays VODs. Yeah, it just plays VODs for like 12 hours and then goes into everybody's account and says, oh, hey, that game is hype. And you're just like, I'm on my just chatting, screaming, what the fuck are you talking about? Depending on how much Sekiro you play, I might sub. I'm planning to finish it. What this is, Clark, is I played this about a year ago and I gave up very quickly. My premise, you honestly don't need to. You don't need to. I appreciate it, people just coming on and chatting. But I gave up about a year ago, and this is kind of a redemption thing. I'm like, I'm going to persevere. I'm going to learn. I'm going to go through. Help Kuro. I didn't listen to what he said. Obey the iron code. Protect them. Go ahead.
Father, I cannot break the iron code.
It's a little nightmare.
To protect you, that
How many? Two, or perhaps a number?
as it was for the purpose of defending my lord, the number does not matter.
The number doesn't matter.
Bind you to an eternity of undeath.
Did you give up streaming for Lent? Yeah, kinda. I think the game beat me, and then there was a lot of personal stuff that was happening. So, wait, there's a wee door there. Happy days. And a lot of personal stuff happened as well. So I kind of gave up for a bit, and then came back to it. Like, this seems like awkward, sort of. Unless they open that door. But what is the point in this recorder? What do you keep here? Is this where you keep where you keep like your bike, or like you put coats or something up here? I don't understand the architecture of this wee bit. Thank you very much for the hype train, folks. You absolute legends. Lurking and twerking, Leo. Kill all those shadows thrice. No, only twice. Only twice. This game is one of my favorites, but I had to look up like 5 tutorials because I could not find out where to go. There's been a couple of times where I haven't been able to figure it out, and maybe I wasn't supposed to go through here. Halalala! Welcome, man. Hala is a phenomenal streamer. And anybody's not following, give a refollow as well. What does this game think we are? Einstein? I know a lot of the Souls games are like that, where you do pretty much have to look up guides on them because it doesn't really explain much. It doesn't really make it easy for you at all. There's Flemish there was giving out gifted subs, and the algorithm that decided on them picked you. National outskirts. I don't remember this being here last time. Maybe I just didn't look enough. Right, okay. Puzzle solving gods. I know, and different
You said has nothing to do. It does.
No, he doesn't care. He doesn't care.
You have my thanks.
Then can I expect my refund? What are you getting a refund for?
In your eyes.
For what?
It's become a shade lighter. What? Nope.
I think I have all my Shinobi prosthetics. Gifted subs? What you get? Am I refunding you? Burton gave you hugs earlier, and that was your payment. Joking, obviously. No. I paid Burton to go up and give you hugs. I must have, will you go kill him again, please? You can actually do that. You can go fight them again. But I think it was sheer luck. There was a couple of times he jumped up into his lightning attack, and I managed to catch him on it. I'm not a huggy person. I am definitely not a huggy person. And Hook knows that fine well. I don't know where to go now. I wasn't listening. Where am I going? Jitsu equipment slot. So there's ninjutsu, right? So whatever this is. How do I do it? After backstab depth. Oh, that's quite good. Wait, to real life. Ew, I know cooties. You aren't over 6 foot. 8 flasks and BVH bar. Yeah, I know, and I still struggled. It's more of a skill issue than anything. Did I ever check behind the house to see if there's anything? Oh, there is. Litecoin purse. There's a real life meetup? Fine. I didn't eat one of it. I wasn't invited either. Really? I would have went too, but I wasn't invited. I had like a quarter HP and 4 flasks. Well, clearly you're just better than me. I need a lot of help. I had to do a lot of, like, going around fighting mini bosses and stuff because I didn't know what was happening. Finally, you get the squall dancing emote. Yes. That's what the people want. We're doing good. Auto interface, and then figured out, let's just chat and have a drink. Fair play. That's the best way to do it, though, isn't it? Abandoned dungeon. I don't like the abandoned dungeon. Sunken Valley. We'll go to the Sunken Valley. Because I haven't really explored too much of here. He made me drive, son of a bitch. CR, we've said it before, you're a saint! Right, okay. Who sees me? All right, you. Sir, I'm here to talk about your TV license. Actually, I'm not jealous. You had to go to fucking Carrick discussing. Eee. But Burton was there, so it's all good. Sir? Sir? Rob Snyder is now a Carrot. What? It's nice as long as you don't leave the coast of Carrick. 100% sounds like me. La, la, la. Oh, shit. Sir. I think I've got too hyper after beating your man. And now I'm just getting my ass handed to me. That's a South Park reference, right? Okay. Is that a newer episode? Because I haven't watched much of the new stuff with South Park. I've seen a lot of the memes and stuff, and they're phenomenal. Where'd I go here? Hello? It's okay, I understood. In Amsterdam, I used to live in Carrick, in Amsterdam, actually. I was in Amsterdam on holiday. I liked the Netherlands. I wasn't a fan of Amsterdam. Old as fuck. Old, hella old. I'm hella old. You're right. Right, so do I have to jump over there? Right, what's this? Let's see where this guy went. Where'd you go? Buddy, where'd you go? You just disappeared. Did I just run and jump? Did I run at it? Well, look, I got back close there, but I don't know how that's going to work out for me. Nope, I'm just falling down a hole. Just falling down a fucking hole. Maybe there's a tree branch there, but it seems further away. Do you have the Breath of Life skill, by the way? Breath of Life light? Yep. Yes, I do. We're all here. Try it and find out if you reach it or not. 5 gift. Stop gifting subs. No need to be gifting, no subs. You better be. No, not making that. Not making that. Seems like there should be somewhere else I have to latch onto. Maybe if I run and like bounce. No, just dying. Anyone know where I have to go here? Because it seems like it's just dead ends. That's not a tree I can cling on to. Unless I can. No, I can't. I'm just falling. So this is something. Why is this here? Why am I hanging on here for? Damn you, fire. It's your fault. It's all your fault. I blame you. Look up. If in doubt, look up. There's nothing. There is nothing up.
Thanks for the sub.
BK Ultima, welcome, and thank you very much for your Prime sub. What is happening? You only see me the other day at work, and you missing me already? Is this what the story is? Where? Always. Nice one. Right, how am I getting across there? Am I even supposed to go that way? Is that what the problem is? I'm not supposed to go this way? I'll try further on down. There's nothing down there. Why is this like this? Why am I hugging the wall? Why is there scratches in the wall? Who was dragging what here? Hey, what were you doing? What were you doing? He's not answering me. He's being hella rude. I don't like it. Right. I need to get there. How to there? How to there? Is there another way around in here? Ooh, it's candy. Right, go this way then. This is the way I go. I don't want to go the other way. The other way is stupid and I don't like it. Fucking lizards! The other way is for stink. You're right, the other way is for stinky people. It's people who sit beside you and they fart in the bus.
Lizard, 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 lizard.
That lizard's vitality doesn't scale with me. You done fucked up, AA Ron? I'll wait for him to come back. Wait for AA Ron. Hit that. What bus though? So I don't know which bus to get on. To be honest, I don't normally take buses, because I drive. But I had it, see when we went to the Netherlands, it was just all buses and trains, and their public transport was phenomenal. By the way, the Jiu-Jitsu, you get from, oh, it sucks, right, okay. Well, it's the only one I have at the moment, so I don't really mind. Sir? 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 Where did it go? Where did it go? Where did it come from? Where did it go? Where did it come from, Cotton Eye Joe? Lad? They get the smoke cloud of blood? That sounds cool. Fucking fancy pants with his own car. Thinks he's so cool, I say it myself. Sir, can you just die? Please? Just a little bit? There we go. We need a death boat. It is cool. Nice one. This game is 10 out of 10. I'm enjoying this. Fine. I cave. I will buy this game when next on sale on Steam. I think it's actually quite cheap on CD keys, or loaded, or whatever they call it these days. Whatever the young kids call it these days. We'll do this? Yes. Yes. Ooh. You alright? You alright, lad?
The gun fort.
60 quid in PSN. See, I'm playing PC at the moment. Maybe a 9 out of 10. I'm enjoying it. I'm liking it. When I left this game, I came back and played the likes of First Berserker Kazan. And that really helped me out with. That really helped me with the parrying on it. Although, I'm still awful at parrying. I just did slightly better. I'm Batman. Don't know who sees me, but somebody fucking does. And they're all shooting at me. Where the hell are they? I can hear them. I just can't fucking see them. Look at all them indicators. Holy shit. Really 50 quid loaded. But it goes down to 25 in sale on Steam. Yeah, I don't even know how much I paid for this. But I'm enjoying this. I'm enjoying this game. It's difficult. It's different from every other Souls game. But it's good. Oh shit, who are you? Right, okay. Oh, nope. I got shot. Shot. Snake eyes. Mickey. Nope. I got got again. You hit pretty hard, lady. I'm just going to keep darting. Keep darting. I'm assuming this is a money boss as well. There we go. Yay, Pervert. Nice one. Next time you go out recreationally when it's warm outside, you could mess with people putting sunscreen in your head. Once it absorbs, your head's extra shiny. I love doing that. Or I could write a message in my head in sunscreen and then get sunburn on the rest of it. That would be an idea. So that person's dead. Though I have used a lot of my health. You know what, fuck it. We'll risk it for the biscuit. Risk it for the biscuit. Where am I going? I'm very aware that... Ah, shit, there's loads of people. Well, they're just all snipers. Well, this is some bullshit. Oh, fuck. I don't know how I survived that. Somebody's just right there. Oop. Right, sit here for 5. Maybe I could go back to stealth. Ooh. Sounds like a great way to spell melanoma. It is phenomenal. That is, because especially when I went bald, this is pretty much just baby skin up here, so it's sunburned so quick. So I was never a hat person. I became a hat person. Use a stencil. Yes. Make a very angry message. Now, do I have the writing in sunburn, or do I have the outline in sunburn? Which way do I go about it? We need to know. The people are curious. Now, am I technically behind them all? I don't know what happened there. I should have done something. I don't know what I'm standing on. There's some bullshit in my feet. The writing and the sunburn, that way they look more angry. You got it. Less pain as well, I suppose. Well, this is fine. This is wonderful. See, when I decided this would be a good place to go, you should have all stopped me and said, Leyoric, you fool. No, do not go there. This is a strange place with bad men. I just ran on that one. Yes. These guys suck. I would just run past. Can you? They shoot round corners as well, apparently? Well, that's fun. I could probably stealth them now. You make your own decisions, don't put your poor choices on us. No. You need somebody to blame. You can't be held accountable for the things I do and say. That is not right. It is shocking these guys is... Did you beat the bow prick? I did. He died. He died of death. And actually, to be fair, it was on a run which I didn't think I was going to beat him. But he did a couple of lightning strikes that kind of went in my favor. Because I was able to counter with them. And it really just fucked up his posture. Oh, can I go down there? What's in there? Oh, that's just a big old hill. That's just a big old hill. Ooh, piece of candy. I honestly don't know how much I've left in this game as well, but I'm assuming that there's still quite a bit. Like, Genichiro, when I was fighting him, he seemed more like a skill check than a near-end boss, right? I don't like the fact that there's all them down there. That just shouts endless. Oh, that's a fun noise. Oh, wonderful. Fuck this shit, we're going stealthy. Unless I don't. Nope, that didn't help me. Right, you literally did that one to yourself. Is that quick all I can really do is defend myself? Yellow gunpowder, prayer breed. Yo, another prayer breed. Hi Viz, what's happening? Have you considered winning? I am winning. Winning in life in general. This guy makes you makes your dopamine go up. Yeah, I didn't like him very much. He seemed a bit aggressive. We just did. He's just a bit aggressive for no reason, and I feel like maybe counseling would have helped him. You know, more so. Oh, fell in a hole. Fell in a hole. But counsel would have helped him more so than the aggressive nature of his attacks. What's down the hole? What is down the hole? Is this where we were previous? Is this the hole that was shown previously? Where I assumed the headless guy was? And if it is, I'm going to turn around and run away because it's fucking shite. I can't get through there. We're winning! Well, okie dokie. I have no idea where I'm going. But that's a fun noise. That seems like a good noise. That seems fine. It's one of them wee fuckers. Divine confetti? Oh, that doesn't fill me with joy. Oh, there's so many lizards. Fuck off. Nope, you can all go be fucked. There's so many of them. What's down here? Is it some bullshit? Probably.
Lizard.
Exactly. Got a Hall Effect controller for the first time. Hopefully this holds up better than the last one. What's a Hall Effect controller? I don't know what that is.
Oh, excuse me?
Divine Confetti is super pog. It is, but
what do you
it's
say?
so difficult to get as well, which is a bit of a nightmare.
No. I'm not going to give you a treat if you call me that. What do you say?
Please.
Annihilator, what's happening?
Bitch, please.
Poor doggo. So there's my fliff. She has decided to sit in a weird position in front of the camera so you can only see her torso. She's a torso dog. She's only part dog, part torso. She's part dog, part torso. You want a treat? You want a treat? You gotta come and get it. Hey, baby. Yeah.
That's called democracy.
Annihilator, you're right. Even mine's a snag to redeem. Huzzah! I've also changed it so it no longer has... It's no longer stopped at 2. So it will keep going as well. You have 2 treats. All the treats. No. Annihilator clearly loves the dog more. What? Why are you screaming? Take off your caps lock. Hall effect sticks are special kind of switch that don't get stick drift. Oh, very nice. That'll be very cool. I tend to get stick drift in a lot of the PlayStation and Switch controllers. Magnetic sensors instead of mechanical. Ooh, very cool. Also, they can kind of reset themselves. Hit caps again. You're just shouting at me, Sarah, and I don't appreciate it, and you're hurting my feelings. You went and met Burton today, and you said you weren't meeting me, and, you know, it hurts feelings. And... I don't know what the crack is with these fellas, but if you jump, you can just auto-kill them, which is weird. Oh, a prayer bead! Let me have to kick someone's ass for that. Oh, this is the other side of where that was. Right, okay. Right, okay. So I have to go the way back there now. But what the fuck's seen me? Right, so that's where I was before, and I went through the hole. She's angry. She's coffee machine and cheese boards. You know what? She deserves to be angry after everything you did or didn't do. We blame you, Flemish, for it. We blame you. Right, okay. That was really worthwhile. Got some prayer beads out of it. That, not so much. Locked? Locked! You taking the pass? So I do have to go through that hole and keep going. But I don't want to. I don't want to. I don't like the dank hole. That's what she said. I don't like the dank hole. 100%. Loud noises! I did the same thing again, didn't I? Went through the wrong one. Wrong hole. Wrong hole. Wrong hole. You hear about the guy who thought his girlfriend was cheating on him during sex? She kept shouting wrong hole. Who the fuck is wrong hole? I don't know what I'm doing with all these gunpowder. I think it's an upgrade tool. This is where I was before. There is also something up there, isn't there? Where does this take me? Alright, okay. I can go that way. Oh, I don't like that. Why? I don't like it when games give me stuff. They're just like, oh, take this stuff that you will need for battle. And I'm like, who am I battling? Why would you do this? Why would you do this? Right, I'm back up here.
Lizard, 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 lizard.
Is this bit done then? Like, I have to keep working my way up the fort? Oh my god. Because I went down and fought that guy, but... Oh, I forgot that brings them back as well, doesn't it? Oh no, this is that bit. So I went down and fought that guy. So I just leave again now? Go and keep trying to go on up. Huzzah! Because I never went this way. But I will now, right? Is there anybody up there watching me? Yeah, there kind of is. Fuck! I am stealth. What am I standing on? What is exploding? I don't know. Unless this is all I'm supposed to do here, I'm not. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. No. Stop. There's something. No, it just flings me, doesn't it? It just throws me. I'm sure you... Oh, well, past where I got last time.
The bad guys are in there.
But they're not Teddy. I don't know. I've done this fort, but I killed some woman. I killed some guy in the thing too. I know I'm being super duper descriptive. I technically should be a writer that I'm so descriptive. What a miss. I'm back. I don't truly know, Hook. Nothing, we just killed a lot of women with guns. We did? Oh yeah, and killed a giraffe with Wolverine claws. That is a very apt description. That makes complete sense. But Clark, where do I go now? Where do I go from here? So I went down there and it kind of looped around into a circle, so I'm assuming I did the majority of it. Get this guy. We'll stab him. We'll stab him until he dies from it. What makes it... Excellent question. Because it's called a giraffe. Well, if he identifies as a giraffe, then he is a giraffe. I'd love to see the Purge movie star Macaulay Culkin. Why? Because he's home alone? Sir. Yeah. 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 Nope. That didn't work. That's right, I fell down that hole last time because they were all shooting at me. Something down there? Let's go have a look now, it's a bit quieter. Oh, I can't even get over there. Oh no, I can. There we go. He's sitting there going, I'm a guard, blah, 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 stop. I bet Flemish would be in it. I know. Why? Why would Flemish be in it? Actually, I should have kept that going. I'd be like, yeah, because of the reason, and then just not explain what it does, even though there is no reason in that explanation for what it does. I'd be like, yeah, funny. Right, okay, I can't go that way. Do-do-do-do-do-do. You seem like the type to like things like that. Jesus. Flemish. When Kevin McAllister in the Purge. I don't think he would do well. I mean, to be fair, if the Wet Bandits had just shot him, it would have been a much shorter film. I always wanted to make... I always hoped that they would make a Home Alone film, but it's set nowadays. It's called Home Alone, where Marv and Harry have been put into a retirement home. And Kevin, through all the trauma of his childhood, has gone a bit mad. And he's trying to break into the home to kill them. And they have to set traps to stop Kevin from coming in. Sticky bandits. They don't have a gun in the second film. Yeah, but they could have got a gun in the first film and just shot him. It's technically what's on Imager. Someone was like, just a Purge movie starring him. Touche. Yeah, what kind of thieves are they breaking into people's houses with a gun? They playing it. Right, so I'm going to go for the Shadow Rush. I don't know where I'm supposed to be going next, so that's called armed robbery. It is. I'm going to go up here and see if these guys are going to tell me what to do. Because I'm just kind of exploring at this point. 25 to life. Yeah, but not if you keep breaking out of prison, because they are that good at it. They break out on the fish trucks.
If we are seeking to sever the immortal wolf, look at...
Oh, I was actually supposed to just talk to this guy. Right, okay. Sever ties with the dragon hair. It looks old. Herein describes the means to perform the rite of mortal severance. Beyond the Fountainhead Palace, locate the sanctuary.
It's an ancient record.
Sacred dragon tears from the divine realm.
Well, in that case, all he has to do is call the cops. No, but the phone lines went down in Home Alone 1. That's why he couldn't phone anybody, and they couldn't phone him.
The dragon's heritage.
But the divine realm? How do we...
I know. Wolf.
Although it is weird, the police just gave up on this missing child, which was confirmed to be Home Alone.
Take a look.
Let's have to look at this text. See this thing? I'm a big fan. This one, right? Oh, I don't have to look at it there.
Wolf. That incense, it belonged to a...
I don't want to be insensitive.
Is there something special about it?
He could be the villain. He would. I like Macaulay Culkin, he's a good actor. Phone lines were down early in the film, but later in the film they were back up. He phoned for pizza. It's true.
Where is he now?
Yeah, but he thought he'd magically made them all disappear. That's why he didn't phone anybody. He wouldn't have been able to deploy his death traps. Yeah, they would have just put him in the care.
Those are supposedly the words he left behind.
You're saying the scent of the fountainhead is the key to reaching the divine realm.
My God.
Wolf, let us discover the truth together. Now, I am certain some of Lord Takeru's books that he collected, I will search for them.
In addition to... might we also look into...
A fine suggestion. If anyone knows the answer. Wolf, cup.
I was supposed to do all the storyline, but then I was like, oh, I'm going to wander off. La 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 la. The actual villain is Uncle Frank. He's not a nice man. He's actually Jigsaw as a child.
Lord Ishi
This is true.
Is not within this castle citadel. I'm told he is recuperating in one of these However, the path to his health is...
How do I get it?
On the roof. There's a path patrolled by the Nightjar Ninja. It's intended for shinobi, but...
I've heard the Nightjar use...
Yes. So if you follow their smoke signals, you should... And you can use this window to reach the roof.
What window? What window?
Find Lord Ishin.
The...
And ask if he's recuperating and reach...
What window? This one? Ah, this one. Uncle Frank is known to be cheapskate and jealous of his brother's success. But was there not a whole theory as well that the brother, Kevin's dad, was like a drug dealer, or he worked for the mob? And that's why... Actually, I don't know which one's which. That he worked for the mob, and that is why they were so rich. Right, so there's one. Did you say SNL script where Grandad is Kevin? I didn't know. Then the second film is even more horrible because Kevin foiled his plan. That's what it is. You know what? That actually might not be a bad theory. How's this the guy?
About the divine heir's life.
Yes?
Yes?
Something I wish to ask.
Before that, sake.
What?
It's the best theory. It is quite a good one as well, isn't it? Refined sake. Ooh.
My grandson, Genichiro, was bewitched by the rejuvenating waters. You did well to...
By the way, that's the strongest guy in the world right there.
I merely followed the code my father
Thanks.
gave me.
Seen the SNL one, it's brilliant.
I see. So you're the son of Owl. That boy he found during the rebellion.
Yes.
Yes.
Travels brought you here. Don't you think, Sekiro?
You're...
So what do you wish to know?
The divine heir's desire, I want to know.
The mortal blade. If you had such a weapon,
Ooh.
it may
The mortal blade.
with
Mortal blade.
you
Dun
could
dun
kill
dun
one
dun
who
dun
cannot
dun
die
dun
and
dun
no
dun
more.
dun dun dun.
Cannot die.
The infested. I have not seen one, but it said you could stab them through the heart. Or to kill a monster such as that.
Where is this?
I've heard it's held in Sempo Temple.
Oh, I was there.
They say the mortal blade cannot be drawn.
We can't draw pictures of it. No
I'm
art.
not certain of the meaning. The gates to that temple, who knows what those degenerates are. There aren't any decent road.
Here.
Are you? By the way, how was Genichiro?
What do you mean?
You two crossed.
And he had.
I see.
What exactly is...
It's a technique belonging to Genichiro's mentor. I'll wager it was quite the sight.
His mentor?
Come away. There aren't many to see her fight. It's like she's dancing. When you look into her eyes, you feel as if you're being drawn into the depths of the ocean.
There you go. I could not for the life of me figure out where I get the Mortal Blade in my first playthrough. Good luck. Right, okay. Well, it's in Senpu Temple. Now, I've already done there.
You're leaving, severing immortality, and in the black you have
And lose...
Sekiro.
So, I have a save spot down here. No, just them guys. Anybody here? No. Wait, what? I don't know what people are doing over there. I don't want to know. But there is ones up there. I like this. This is so good. I know. Who the fuck is sneezing?
So...
Yes, for defeating...
I see. To think that Lord Genichiro would...
Rejuvenate?
That's what we call a particularly concentrated... I'm sure you saw. The rejuvenating sediment grants great resilience. One becomes able to withstand blows that would be fatal to anyone else.
Ooh.
My mentor Dogen, all of his... I'm not sure who, but I heard one of the senior apprentices, probably Did you ask?
I did.
And?
We've decided to sever the tie.
I see.
I thank you.
I've carried out my lord's orders, so I will stay. Come and speak to me. I will provide my...
Happy days. Do I have a gourd seed? I don't have any gourd seeds.
Master, will it look your... Please. Goodbye.
Was that the Wayne sneezing? Gunfort Shrine Key? Ah, right, okay.
Oh, Wolf, did you meet with...
I did. He said it could be the key.
The mortal?
It's a sword that has the power.
I see.
As you said.
For my part, I hunted for any books...
Can correct the spelling for me, but there is a movie with a similar title to this game you're playing. That is Brolin, Emily Blunt, and the Del Toro guy.
So far, I
From
found one
similar to Sekiro?
What is it?
A flower.
Are you winning? Akira, I am winning.
A flower?
First,
What is...
Lord, I was looking for info. There is water, and the book, it appears to...
A place where perhaps in...
Yes, a fountain.
Where is this?
It's beyond the wood. There's a shrine. As the name and there's no proper path down there.
My lord.
This is a document.
I see.
It says, but
It has been...
now that I've read it, this may be worth
I will take a look.
Guillermo del Toro.
The text did say...
Sicario. Ah, very close. Glad to hear it. Akira, what is the story? How are you getting on? How was the rest of your stream earlier, Santal? I couldn't really hang about for too much long because I had the kids. But I enjoyed it. Looks really good.
See if you can think of
My lord.
You're leaving.
Akira's playing the remake of Silent Hill 2. Right, so we have some stuff. We have some things to do. What's good? You need to play Silent Hill 2. I really do. But I have too much on the backlog as well to play. So I'm gonna have to... We'll find something that'll meet me there. It's over there. You could have called me. You don't have to leave a note. This is a waste of paper. Trees don't grow... Paper doesn't grow on trees, you know. Backlog never ends. And I keep adding to it as well. That's a problem. Now, I'm going to quickly take a break to run to the bathroom. I will be back in a second, but in my Be Right Back screen, for anybody who doesn't know, there's a voting system. So 2 games come up. It's exclamation mark vote 1 for the first one, exclamation mark vote 2 for the second one. And at the very end, the game goes on the, like a top 10 Hall of Fame. So I'll be back in a wee second.
When the silence falls, empty throne waiting, something's building in the air, voices rising, the battle lines are drawn to your side, no going back now. Cast your vote of kings, crown the one that rules your heart. Vote of kings, tear the old world apart. Which legend takes the throne? Cast your vote of kings. Soldiers from distant lands, crystals and blades colliding, stealth through shadows, time itself rewinding. The battle lines are drawn, choose your side, history in your hands. Cast your vote of kings, crown the one that rules your heart. Vote of kings, tear the old world apart. Which legend takes the throne? Cast your vote of kings. 7 versus 8, snake versus shine time, every memory at stake. Remember when we first believed, this was turned to prophecy. Now decide what kingdoms bleed. Vote, cast your vote of kings, crown the one that rules.
Half-Life 2 won it. Now, see at the very end, when it does go to 50-50, it will randomly pick one of them. We've been robbed. What's the criteria when it draws? It just, it'll flip a coin. Vote Legends Dragoon. It is on there. It's definitely on there. Horum Homeheim, welcome in. Now, Sekiro Shadow's Wish got to be one of the raddest games ever. I'm enjoying it. The first time I played it, I rage quit and gave up. But I'm enjoying it now. As much as I've Space Marine 2, the sassy announcer in Wave Race beats it. Robin Hoors. So this is our top 10 Hall of Fame at the moment. I think Final Fantasy VII's the only one that has 2 1s at the moment, but we have a number of entries now. We have 7 at least. So if any of the rest of them ever come up again, they can win. But back to more Sekiro, right. Did I decide on where I was going? I don't think I did. Right. I don't think there's anything for me to level up yet. But was it Senpu Temple? Travel. So I've already gone to most of the places in Senpu Temple. They did give me a key as well for the Sunken Valley. Now, is that for that door that was locked previously? Yeah, potentially. We'll give that a go and see if it opens up. It's only because I was given a key for it, so I'm assuming it opened something. So when I came down here and fought... Was it in here and fought the guy? Yeah, it was. There was this door that wouldn't open. Fucking called it! Called it! So we continue on forth here. Sunken Valley Passage. Used to go out here, look at. Check my phone a second, sorry. Right, some down there. Oh, fucking giant snack. Fucking wreck the bridge. Bridge is fucked. Jesus Christ. How do I get back up over here? There's a cave. Fuck. He's blocking my cave. Son of a bitch. Well, that was a bit of a shock. So it was. Didn't think I'd see him again. I stabbed him in the eye previously. As long as we don't have more shitty boys out here, we'll be alright. Oh. Monkey! Monkey in armor? Fair enough. Right. Oh, fuck, right, okay. No hanging about that. Is it the monkey shooting at me? The angry one-eyed snake? We all know it. We all love it. Yeah, I stabbed him in the eye earlier. At least I think it was him. I never got a good look at him when he was trying to eat me. Oh, he's just jabroni. Anybody else here? Look at the amount of funky monkeys down there. I will need to change my combat art because the whirlwind slash is going to be wonders in that. Where's the big fucking snake though? Look, thank you very much. 27 months. I think that's how long I've been followed as well. Appreciate it, buddy. Thank you so much for that. Killing all the monkeys. Basically, it's being, oh, if you don't kill them, they give you a special item. Monkey booze. Monkey booze. Yes. That's what I'm talking about. Monkey booze. Alright, what's over here? There's a thing. Do I have to jump down to get across, or can I go on that rope? Is that a thing? Yes. Yes, I can. Happy days. It's good. I think I'm subbed from the day you got affiliate. No, an absolute legend. I appreciate it, man. Do I need to acquire any skills yet? Night Jar Slash. What is that? You leave him alone. He's a good boy. He's a good boy. He's a good boy. And covers posture upon X with death blows. We will get that. Oh, what's this? Is it a big monkey? It's a big monkey. There's a big monkey. I need to get rid of some... I'm going to get rid of some money before I even think about going down there. Oh, is it your woman? It's herself.
For one, over the dried fruit is over there. Past the poison swamp. Down the nest. That's where you'll find...
What are you talking?
Eh? Right. If something less me...
She's gone mad. But it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. To be fair, I'm the same. I think I'm... sub to Hook as well for the same amount of time. Well, not the same. I think it's like 42 months or something because he started streaming before I did. Giant black clock. Black clock? Cock. Penis.
Greetings. Go on.
Heavy coin purse. And light coin purse. Should get rid of the majority of my money. Nicely job.
Until next time, someone...
Right, now we're going to go find a monkey. Because that's not going to end badly. Thank you very much, folks, as well, for coming on. And thanks for the advice, too, because we're making a lot of progress. And I don't know if I could have done it on my own. Well, I couldn't have done it on my own with the little amount of deaths I have. Right. So there's trees and there's a monkey. Queen V, welcome on. Morning, Leyoric. That YouTube video is so good. Oh, no bother. We have Hook coming out with one. Hook, when's yours getting published? And I'll be doing a new one I'll be filming a new one tomorrow. He is not a happy camper. I got eaten. Thanks for the shouting. Not a problem. Anybody's not following Queen V. She's playing through Resident Evil 3 at the moment, and an absolute legend. Oh, fuck, right, okay. This guy hits hard. Alright, okay, that's what I'm supposed to do. But not that bit. I'm not supposed to do that, but that bit I'm not supposed to do. I'm kind of wondering as well, should I be adding the mini bosses? Because I've only put on like the major story bosses so far, and there doesn't seem to be very many of them. I'm Spider-Man! And I got hit. He likes to roll. It's all learning. That's what it is. It's all learning at this point. Oh, he's not happy. He's not happy. He got me! He got me. He made me squish. He made me squish. Oh, he fired it at me! And I'm poisoned. We're fucked. He threw shit at me, and we're fucking poisoned. I do have stuff to cure. What you gonna do, brother? I do have stuff to cure poison, but I don't think this is going to be the run. Oh, shit. It is the run. I got him. Most people hate it, but I found it so fun, especially when it takes this crap out of hand and flings it at you. Yeah, it was actually quite cool. I enjoyed that. Alright. Do it again. I didn't see. Oh shit, no. He's not dead. He's back up. He's alive. He has no head. This is like Scalpel in Kazan as well. Fucking did that to me too, where I was like, yay, I beat him. And it's like, no, you didn't, kid. You didn't. Is it there? Burton, I feel like that's your fault. I feel like he was dead. Do you read that for me? Well, that's a fun noise. And I'm dead because of terror. Terror, I tell you. Fuck, that terror's ridiculous. I do have stuff for terror though, don't I? Yeah. It's way on up the top, isn't it? No. It's just terror build up. Chew. Where is it? I don't like that. It may have been my fault. Maybe a little bit. Maybe a little bit. Spider-Man! Oh shit. Fucking terror, hey. Getting on close seems a bit hard. Yeah, he got me. He got me. I thought I did well there. I thought I did well, and Odin's, you tempted me. You made me think I done good, and then I fucked it up. Right, I will... So I have to deal with poison as well. Burn? I haven't thought anything about those burn attacks. Well, that's fun. That's going to come up soon, isn't it? Weak poison status inflicted upon consumption. By inflicting some... Why would I poison myself? Why would I do that? That's a good thing. You want phase 2 down to muscle memory? Yeah. Well, that was fun. Right, so I need to be very clean in phase 1 then. Which I'm already not. Also, where did he get the sword? I don't know why I'm sticking myself in this corner. Oh, right, I can see it. It's stuck on them. Well, that's what he gets for being a blatant shenaniganizer. Tearing through these health packs. He's picking poop. It pooped me. It pooped me. I thought he was reaching for poop again. He was not. I farted on. Shit. And that's the last time I heal him. Yeah, got me. Got me. I have died. Remember me as I was. Hirokishiji, he did. Hugh Jazz, welcome on. How are you getting on? The sword stuck in his neck if you look closely. Yeah, I can see it. Very clean phase 1. Try and save your heals for phase 3 and 4. Couldn't even get through phase 1. It's getting close, though. Getting close. We'll get there. We'll get there. Get there. I don't dislike the fight yet. Fuck. Why? I need to figure out a way to avoid the poop. And that as well, whatever that is. Because that wasn't fun. Jump to avoid poop. It's just life advice in general, really, isn't it? Jump to avoid poop. If you jump, the poop will just fall out of you. But what if you're wearing pants? What if you're wearing pants, damn it? I'll have a drink while she fall on top of me. Feeling great. Hope you're doing well. I am doing phenomenal today. I am enjoying the crack. Be aggressive. Be aggressive. No, don't be that aggressive. I always take 2 pairs of pants when I play golf, just in case I wet one. Just in case you shit your bags. No, I'm not falling for this time. I don't believe you. The banana snowman is mean. He is. He's a bit of a dick. Yeah, I didn't think that one through at all. Congrats! Oh no, it wasn't congrats. We've been through this one before with him, where he goes down once and then he gets back up again. And that is what, in fact, she did say. That's what she said. Right, so jump when he throws the poop. Jump when he throws the poop. When he throws the poop, jump. He fucking wrecks my posture meter. He's going to do it. He's going to... Jump! No, I still got put on. And he got me. Should have went to the side. Too late. Did I jump too late, was it? Is that what the problem was? My fling was flung. Quite dramatically too. No. I didn't jump. I didn't jump. Like, there's no way I'm beating him. Wait, nothing here. Can I steal this sword? Gimme. This reduces tear buildup as well, so maybe I should be better having this on just in case. Could I just run away? Is that an option? And I'm done. It's a giant monkey. I'm not disliking the fight though. I don't mind it. Should I be doing something else though? Monkey beat your ass. Monkey whip my ass. That's the problem. The Rock came on and whipped all their monkey asses. Trying to think. I do have quite a bit of money. Should I go and maybe upgrade my tools? Maybe that'll be a better bet. Jabronis. And that's the bottom line. You could smell more than unwelcome, man. What is happening? I can smell what that monkey's cooking. Definitely. What were you last streaming? How you getting on? Dark and Darker. I think you were playing that before. It's like a kind of weird, creepy sort of RPG. Best tip I can give you is just keep running in the circle, wait for the moves he does, and then parry easy and attack. Right, okay. I'm going to go back to the dilapidated temple, though, and see if there's something I can upgrade. I've been stuck on it, and I want the drops. We all want the drops. But in this scenario, I'm fighting a monkey that flings poop. I don't want his drops. His drops are what I'm against.
Hey there, still up.
You got anything I want to buy? Board seat. I've already bought that. Oh. Don't need anything else off me. Next time.
You need.
Thanks for the charity. Not a problem. Thank you very much for coming on. Divine I don't think I ever used that one. What's this one? It's a large fan. Hi, I'm a big fan. Big fan. Upgrade prosthetic. So if I need 600 for that. That's a flame vent. I don't want a flame vent. Long spark. Yeah. Increase it over the bloom for a short while. Spear. My God. Unknown firecracker. You know what? I don't think I really need to do any of them. Honestly, don't. But at the same time, I'm not getting this guy on posture at all. It's damage. So maybe I should increase my damage before going. Maybe that would be a good bet. So, I don't have any pelts. Fuck the pelts. But if I take in... Reduces vitality damage taken on physical attacks. Reduces posture damage. Yeah, we'll go this one. Is keep running in a circle. Wait for the moves he does that you can parry easily and then attack. Right, okay. Right, come on, big monkey man. Yep, I did not avoid that. I don't know what I was planning to do there. It's like I find a giant monkey on the... I know. Oh, I got away there. Nope, evidently not. He's going for all the fucking moves. Sir. I think my problem is I'm not actually learning properly. He farted! He farted on me. I keep forgetting I need to move out of the way of that. Oh, this is just the first phase. The second one, he's headless and has a sword, and he's an absolute nightmare. We just wait for him. It's a double bluff, and it really got me. It was like, yay, I beat him, yay! I did not beat him. Oh no. Phase 2, baby. I think I shot a fish. You know what, I just have to be patient with. Just stay away from that attack. Get back, get back, get back, get back, get back, get back, get back. Good man, good man, good man, good man, good man. One more. Chrissy, what's happening? GG's. Has the shadow died twice tonight? The shadow has died many times. I think 40 odd times so far. Stop what you're doing and cook it in a very satisfying cutscene. No, I will not. I will not. I refuse to. Get back, 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 get back. You're going to take this preemptively. No, no, he got me. He got me. I got dead. I got dead. I was alive and now I'm dead.
Finding Leyoric in another person.
Sure, there he is himself. What is happening?
We say the rarest gym badge in Kanto.
How dare you? How dare you, sir?
Yeah, but like you're one of those like shiny ones that everyone has because they were like in a special drop event or something like that, you know?
Well done, right? I'm going to give it another go because you know what? I'm actually not hating this fight. It's alright, you know. Ian, what is the story? Anybody here that's not following Ian, he is a wonderful streamer and really cool guy. Plays a lot of Final Fantasy games and horror games. We're fighting a giant monkey. Come on. You know you want it. Come on, sir. Let's go. Let's get over and done with. Really? He bopped me with his head? Surely that's not right. It is right. Never call me Shirley. Doing good, man. You dealing with some monkey business? Haven't had anything, just been happy to see you, that is all. Heard that Ian's favourite soda is carbonated black licorice drink. What? Harsh rumours, vicious rumours. We won't stand for it. We won't stand for it. Apart from when we do stand for it, but apart from that, we won't stand for it. The trauma. Oh, I thought he was going to go for his thing. Oh, he did. He did. He did. The crafty bugger, though. Oh, that doesn't work on him because he doesn't have a head. Okay, fair enough. Yep. I was stuck in a corner and I could do fuck all about it. Bugger. Would you stop cutting down all them trees, sir? The kids in the local nursery planted those trees and you are ruining them. Wonder if he'd throw his head at me. Come on. Ah, knew I was going for it. Knew I was good. Yo, I'm back. I'm so excited you're at this boss, right? There's a huge tech I can't wait to tell you about in second phase. I'm in second phase and he's whipping my arse. You know, I expected this. I'm happy to see you too, you big handsome devil. I'm just glad we are 1-1 away from getting that guy a haircut. Yeah, and this earlier mind the CL football or a big injection for bonus money. I'll have to get a fucking haircut. I don't know what that means, but okay. Let's go. I don't know why I physically jumped on my seat there. It's the one. Or wait until after this. Wait until after this attempt. We'll see how I get on with this one. I don't imagine I'm going to beat him, but you know what? We'll see. Fucking hate that move. Oh, I was scratching my nose and I couldn't jump. I took my finger off the ball. Ooh, that was close. That was close. Scratch my nose. Why is my nose so itchy? Damn it. Run, 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 run. I don't know if jumping's faster than running. I think I just panicked. Oh, you sneaky little bastard. Thank God I was far enough away to not get that one. Right, come on. Why is it anytime it gets important, my nose gets itchy? I am sorry, folks. I am missing loads of chat. This is really fucking intense. Is this the one? Is this the one? I got greedy. 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 Come on, lad. Come on. Is this it? Is this it? Did we get it? Could have saved you a bunch of time. I shouldn't have left. No, no, no. No baller, no baller. Oh, shit. Is this another thing? Is this another thing? On to phase 3? I hope not. GG's. Oh no, I disappeared. What the fuck was that? Hoo 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 hoo. Right, what am I reading? I'm messing up in chat. Messing up in chat here. Combination of being lazy and not wanting to interact with people, and cheesy bean and rice burrito had in my fridge. Nice one. How does that scream without a head? No idea. No idea. Scratching his nose. I know. You won't find a headless it scratch his nose? No, but I got very itchy there. I don't know if it was the stress of it. Yeah, I may attempt about 10, I'd say. He puts his head over where his head used to be. He uses the bottom half of the vocals. Ah, right, okay. Shouldn't have left, could have saved you a bunch of time, GG. Thank you very much. Thanks for the GPs, we snaky boy. Up to no nonsense, that's what it was. It was craftiness. And ad break is starting soon. No, it is. Snooze. Oh, that was class. Thank you so much, folks. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for all the subs and all the gifted subs as well. Do you like the new camera? What do we think? What do we think? Is it better than the previous one? The previous one did its job. It was class. But I appreciate you folks. Thank you very much. We are going to raid out now. And let me see. Look at the high def. HD Leyoric. And what we're going to do is we're going to raid into our buddy Mike. He is streaming Breath of Fire 3 at the moment. I was going to raid on the Pebs earlier, but I don't see him live at the moment, so he must have finished up. But if you could hang about for the raid, that'd be much appreciated. Mike is a good friend of the channel, does a lot of audio streams, a lot of RPG stuff as well, and speedruns Final Fantasy 8. Thanks for the stream. Have a great... Hey, Owens, thank you very much for coming on. And Clark as well, thank you very much as well for coming on and giving a hand. But I am going to drop a wee raid message here. I will be back on Wednesday night with Resident Evil and back to Sekiro then on Thursday and Saturday. And I will see you cool folks then, and I'll chat to you later. Bye-bye.